Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. I got another theoretical for you today. You know, there's a lot of people on YouTube who are preppers or survivalists who I don't agree with on a lot of things. On perhaps even everything but the fact that it's good to prep and it's good to be prepared. Now, is the common denominator amongst us paranoia? Or, you know, because clearly there's people of a broad spectrum of values and beliefs, ideologies, who practice preparedness. And there's people like, you know, who I listen to, for instance, Hiberniacin, who I probably don't agree with about 90% of what the guy says. Nonetheless, I respect his opinion because I embrace the differences of opinion so long as they are, you know, respectfully put and not bigoted or whatever. But, you know, I don't agree with much the guy says, yet at the same time, we're both prepping. You know, we're both surviving. And I really hope nobody, you know, gets all offended at me saying that. If you do, then, you know, if you can't understand how two men can agree to disagree, then, you know, you got a bit of growing up to do. But that said, there's some people who, you know, I do agree with when it comes to prepping on certain issues. And, you know, we too share the same, if you could call it, paranoia or justifiable fear, perhaps, that, you know, shit's coming down the pipe. So there must be a general awareness that society is not going in the right direction, or that perhaps an awareness of the frailty of civilization to some extent that we share, even though we perhaps, you know, it's that we perceive the same frailty. However, perhaps we differ in how we think that society should ideally be structured, or how our civilization should be structured. We're going to vary politically, philosophically, religiously, ideologically, psychologically, in a lot of different ways. Yet we all know that something is wrong. Now, are we all just control freaks? To some extent. When I propose these theoreticals, I'm not saying anything definitively. It's a quote by Aristotle: "It is the mark of an intelligent mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it." So when I talk about this stuff, I'm not saying that, yeah, we're control freaks, we're paranoid control freaks. I'm just saying, you know, is there a part of it that's that? And even if we were, is that necessarily a bad thing? A lot of what ifs. You got to employ the Socratic method. You know, you have to question everything, question the questioner. But I digress. You know, we're all similar on some level, and at the end of the day, you know, when we scrap it out with one another on YouTube, when we argue and we disagree, and nonetheless we're all preppers. You know, we're all like kids in the same classroom, in the same school. And even though I might disagree with one of you guys on here, and even though you might have pissed me off at one point in time, you know, I might miss you if the Gestapo ever kicked in your door and hauled your ass to jail for thinking or preparing or what have you. Because we have to remember that, you know, and not to make too many quotes out of a video, but a threat to justice anywhere, or how does the quote go? Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So even though I might disagree with you about something, you know, I have to defend you. If I don't, they're coming for me next. And that's probably not too apparent to a lot of people because, you know, we've been so pampered in decadence for so long that we can't see the iron fist that's coming down on us right now in slow motion, but it is. And that's another thing, you know, I might believe that, and you might not believe that. You might just be someone who's preparing for an earthquake, or who thinks it's good to prepare for winter storms, because, you know, nonetheless, we share the fact that we are taking preparedness into our own hands. We are not relying on an insurance company or the government or something to that effect. So do those similarities outweigh our differences? Should we embrace those similarities in times of, you know, great difference? Or are our differences, you know, too great to ignore? You know, is disagreeing ideologically ultimately going to be the death of us? I mean, on the one hand, or the death of one of us, I should say, because on the one hand, I like the fact that somebody's prepping, you know, because that means the less chance that they're going to have to rely on this system, or, you know, or me, or perhaps the less chance that they're going to have to resort to crime, and, you know, all the less chaos out there if the shit does hit the fan. So even if somebody who was completely ideologically opposed to me was prepping, that would be a good thing. Or would it? You know, are preppers just a cross-section of society? And would preppers, you know, who were, you know, had those great differences in opinion, would they just recreate the same power struggle that exists right now in the world? You know, would we be any different than the control freaks who are vying for power right now? It's hard to say. I think if we can find some common ground in this prepping thing, it's that we're all aware that something is wrong, you know, and somebody might come at it from the perspective of we're destroying the environment. You know, just because somebody takes note of the fact that we are mismanaging our environment and our resources doesn't make them a communist. I just want to make that clear, because a lot of people presume that, you know, hypocritically, that anybody who disagrees with them is somehow a communist, which is very ironic because a communist says you should agree with everything I say, but that's another story altogether. Someone might come at it from the perspective of we're entering a police state, you know, and there's too much regulation, there's too much government control. Some might come from it from a perspective of, you know, global conflict is going to be the death of us. Some people like myself might be highly, not necessarily worried, but aware that a pandemic is imminent of some sort. Not necessarily Ebola, you know, possibly some variation of that, but that a pandemic is imminent. So we're all coming at it from a point of, okay, we see that something is wrong, you know, and what we see is wrong on the reflection of that is going to be sort of what we see is right. You know, so if I believe that there's a pandemic that's imminent, well, obviously something with respect to how we are running our world has bred that concern, has, you know, justified my belief in that idea. You know, a person who fears war between nations, is their perception that that's the crux of what's wrong? Does that reflect how they would project their ideal version of the world? I don't know if that makes sense, but if your primary concern is war, does that say something about your personality? Are you a warlike person yourself? If your primary concern is environmental destruction, does that say something about you as a person? Kind of drifting off topic, but just a few theoreticals for you today, trying to find some common ground, because I know that when the shit hits the fan and YouTube is offline, I'm going to be wondering what the prepper nurse is doing. I'm going to be wondering what the prepared mind is doing. I'm going to be wondering what Mosaic Master 1 is doing. I'm going to be wondering what Hiberniacin and General S. Lee and Doug Bass 654 and Bill McFarland and the Healthy Prepper and Jimmy Rance. I'm going to be wondering what all you jokers are doing out there. I'm going to be... the thought's going to cross my mind. Obviously, it's not going to be my first priority, but, we're all going to sort of think about it. I wonder how they're dealing with shit that hits the fan over there, even though I might not agree with everything they say. So, anyways, if I missed anybody, don't feel bad. I appreciate all the comments and the feedback, and definitely want to do that shout-out video soon. So, and oh yeah, I'm gonna wonder what General Banter is doing out there on the East Coast. Anyways, there's a lot of people I could mention, but let's try to find some common ground. And I'm not trying to say that we should have a big love-in and that everybody should be friends and hold hands and all that shit, but it's just a sociological question of sorts. What makes, or perhaps it's more of an anthropological, because we're looking at the subculture of prepping, what makes preppers similar to one another. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching Canadian Prepper Out.